This one's a classic.
On January 23, 2008, the supposed final job advancement was added to MapleStory. Fourth job, and it ended up being far from the actual final job advancement, as we found out years later, and as this guy predicted. With this update, though, we saw the first meta-changing power creep that was introduced to the game. Fourth job restructured the power balance of the classes in a major way for the first time, and it also brought with it a number of really interesting quest lines that were required to unlock access to these meta-changing skills. I could sit here and discuss the implications of Fourth Job's release in Old School MapleStory and its consequences on the game as a whole, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to go over every Explorer Fourth Job skill quest that has ever existed in MapleStory. The quests every class had to do in order to access all of their Fourth Job skills. These quests included everything from running PQs to get a specific skill book drop, all the way to entering weird instanced maps or even killing bosses for specific quest items. For me, these Fourth Job quests were always an annoying hurdle to have to get through, and I never really appreciated them for what they were. So let's take a step back and look a bit more closely at these quest lines and their associated lore. There's a lot of content to discuss when covering this topic of Fourth Job skills, so let's get right into it. Before we get into it, let's talk about Fortune Mill, an incremental idler game where you have to escape from a factory by progressing through rooms, becoming a millionaire in each. I've played a lot of incremental idler games, and Fortune Mill is one of my favorites. It's very fun. As you progress paying off the guys blocking your path, you unlock access to new mini-games, each of which has a ton of upgrades and augments. This, of course, helps push you even further, with more little guys helping you out along the way. Most of my channel consists of progression content. I just love this gameplay loop of watching numbers go up, which Fortune Mill does extremely well. Each room has upgrades that boost other rooms, and you can travel between them as you unlock access. And eventually, it becomes a connected system of every room helping the others as you work your way to freedom. Fortune Mill is currently 25% off until June 13th, and it's available now on Steam. Not every single Fourth Job skill had a corresponding quest line. Some were unlocked automatically upon job advancement, but most skills had an initial max level of just 10. Mastery books were required to raise this max level, and skill books were used to unlock skills to begin with. There was practically no logical consistency as to which skills were given skill books versus a quest line, or simply given upon advancement, as we will soon learn. Credit for a lot of this information goes to Unscrupulous of playpark.net, who posted outlines of all of these quests almost 2 decades ago now. It was extremely helpful for compiling the information required for this video. You would be surprised how much of it is missing these days. I want to first talk about the common skills that all classes had access to. There are only 2 of these skills, actually, Maple Warrior and Hero's Will, and both of them still exist in their initial implementation in modern MapleStory to this day. The only difference is that Maple Warrior is almost always a passive now. Maple Warrior is a skill that increases a player's stats by a percentage. This was actually the first time percent-based stats were ever introduced to the game in any meaningful way. The mastery books for Maple Warrior 20 and 30 only dropped from Horntail and Pink Bean, respectively. They were highly sought after and low in supply, making them the most valuable skill books in the game for a very long time. After Big Bang, when Mystery Mastery books were introduced, these two books were still so valuable that they often became the jackpot prize within this system. They wouldn't hold value forever, as eventually the design of Mastery books would change, allowing everyone greater access to their fourth job skills. But these two books were king for a very long period of time. Hero's Will is the other common fourth job skill. It cleanses the user of all negative effects when used. This was particularly useful for something like Horntail, where the seduction status was rampant. This is a debuff that bosses can inflict that makes you lose control over your character, and it forces them to do a specific action, either walking or jumping usually. The real issue with it was that potions were not usable during the duration of this debuff, making it extremely deadly. It wasn't uncommon to have bishops follow around the seduced player spamming heal to keep them alive. Hero's Will is the only skill in the game that can cleanse this debuff, and it was, and still is, a very important skill. While Maple Warrior did not have a skill book or quest associated with it, only requiring us to talk to our fourth job instructor to unlock it, Hero's Will did have a pretty lengthy quest requirement. First, we talk to Chief Tatamo in Leafree. He then sends us to Karta the Sea Witch in a hidden map in Deep Sea Gorge 1, one of many hidden streets we'll be covering today. Talking to Karta for the first time, she informs us that humans used to have the strong willpower required to resist temptation, which prevented them from being seduced by monsters, I guess? I don't really believe that, though. I've been on the internet long enough to understand humanity's proclivities in that regard. Either way, she took this willpower away from the humans for some reason. I guess we didn't deserve it. In order to get it back, Karta tells us that we need a miniature pianist dropped from the boss in order to access the warped dimension. The monsters here hold pieces of courage, and we need 40 of these to complete the first part of the quest. After this, Karta tells us that the willpower had a physical form, and it needed to be made into medicine before it could be consumed and restored to us. In order to do this, she needs a mithril wristband. This mithril wristband doesn't actually hold any significance with regard to turning the willpower into a tangible medicine. She kinda just wants one. We need to talk to Yurik the Alchemist, who lets us know that they can indeed make the mithril wristband, and will need to provide a ragged wristband from Griffey as well as 10 mithril plates in order to do so. This now makes 2 area bosses we have to kill for this quest. These skill quests don't play around, and we'll continue to see this trend. After giving Yurik the materials, we receive the mithril wristband, and after giving that to Karta, Hero's Will is finally unlocked. This is not the most difficult of the quests that we'll be discussing today, but it was no joke. And that's all for the common skills that every class had access to. All 2 of them. From here on out, we'll be discussing class-specific skills, starting with one of my favorite jobs, Warrior. Just about every class had a set of common skills beyond Maple Warrior and Hero's Will that they all shared, with the exception of pirates, and these were usually the simpler of the quest lines to complete. This wasn't always the case, though. First is Rush. True to its name, this is the first rush skill ever added to the game, a type of skill that moves the player a set horizontal distance very quickly. While nowadays a lot of classes have access to a rush skill, this was its earliest iteration. This quest introduces us to a new concept that we'll be seeing a few more times: quests that become available after looting a specific item. In this case, we have to kill Toro Spears until we get an indecipherable book drop. It's written in some strange language, so we can't read it. Some kind of monster language, perhaps. With the book in our inventory, we talk to Manji in Parion, and he's able to translate it for us. The book contains information about the Rush skill, but before he'll tell us anything more, we need to prove our worth to obtain such power. He tells us to kill 200 Toro spears in a special map and advises us to bring a warrior friend along to make this easier. This is actually required, by the way. We can't enter the special map alone, we have to be in a party with another warrior. This is another thing these 4th job quests loved to make you do. Killing all 200 Toro spears is a very trivial matter for a 4th job warrior, and when we do so, Manji translates the book for us, and it turns into the skill book for Rush. Power Stance is another first for the game. This is where the concept of stance was born. This is the ability to prevent being forcibly knocked back when hit by monsters. Nowadays, all classes in MapleStory can reach 100% power stance passively, but back in the day, it was capped at 90% and only available to warriors. In order to unlock this ability, we begin by killing Crimson Balrog on the boat to or from Orbis. We'll find a piece of paper that contains plans to kidnap Tylus, the elder warrior of Elnath. We bring this paper to our 4th job instructor Harmonia to discuss it. After some quick investigating, Harmonia informs us that this is only half of the document, so we're sent off to Spiruna in Orbis to help find the missing half. Spiruna looks into her crystal ball and tells us that lycanthropes hold the other half of the kidnapping plan. They were in cahoots with the Balrogs. We go kill lycanthropes until we find this other half, bringing it back to Harmonia, who tells us to immediately head back to Elnath to protect Tylus from the imminent kidnapping, which is where we were just at, by the way. I do appreciate the logic of this plot line. We know Tylus is in danger, but because we don't have every single detail, there's no possible action we can take until we find the rest of the plans from lycanthropes. Yeah, it looks like they're trying to kidnap Tylus, but what if the missing piece of paper has the word psych on it? Talking to Tylus, he says that he's already been informed and accepts our protection, and this is where we're introduced to Elnath PQ. Elnath PQ is one of those PQs that I very intentionally excluded from my old PQ retrospective video. This PQ requires anywhere from 1 to 6 players, one of which has to be a 4th job warrior doing the quest line to unlock Power Stance. In this PQ, Crimson Balrogs and lycanthropes will spawn continuously, attempting to kill Tylus. They have to be taken out before they get the opportunity to do so, and upon death, they will have a chance to drop a skill book for either Dragon's Breath, Taunt, or Infinity. They're pretty common drops, so most players only have to do the PQ once to get what they need. The monsters in this PQ function similarly to the monsters in Hinnis' PQ, so this can be soloed by a warrior if they have sufficient potions. After successfully protecting Tylus, therefore thwarting the plan to kidnap him, he thanks us by teaching us the Power Stance skill, and we were able to give some of our archer, thief, and magician buddies some of their important skills along the way. The next common skill is only shared by heroes and paladins who are holding a shield, and it's a very quick quest. While holding a shield, we talk to Moose in Leafree Forest Crossroad. You see, he really loves shields, a man after my own heart. He likes shields so much, in fact, that he's willing to teach us the new shield skill he developed if we simply hunt 200 black Kentaurises in his training grounds. Again, another trivial matter for a 4th job warrior. After doing so, we learn the skill Guardian and are given a Geller head shield. I love that Moose's new shield skill is simply use it to block damage. That's very innovative. The Gellerhead shield is one of the rarest items in MapleStory, by the way. Because of its limited distribution, it was already very hard to come by, if you also consider the fact that only one was available per 4th job warrior, and that it was trade locked. I mean, this shield became downright legendary. These restrictions meant that players would only have one opportunity to scroll it, unless they held on to the shield for a very long time to be able to use innocence scrolls and clean slates when those were added. Today, this shield is extremely rare and has long since been unobtainable. It has an awesome design though, and if my experience making these videos is anything to go off of, I know for a fact there's somebody watching this who has held on to one for all these years. The final common warrior skill is not really a shared skill, it's more of a shared quest that unlocks different skills depending on the class. There's one quest line all warriors can do that will unlock their sort of ultimate skill. Berserk for Dark Knights, Enrage for heroes, and Heaven's Hammer for paladins. This one quest line is identical between the three classes and it just unlocks one of those skills. First, we talk to Wiz the Librarian in the Helios Tower Library. He mentions a legendary warrior named Sayram and a singing shield we can use to get information about the old techniques of his. He also gives us a book detailing Sayram's journey, and we take this information to Chief Tatamo to see what else we can learn. Chief Tatamo tells us that while he knows about Sayram, he doesn't know anything about the singing shield, but we can potentially find some information about it through Sayram's necklace, which Sayram gave to Griffey, the area boss. I don't really understand the relationship humans have with monsters in this universe. This guy's handing necklaces to Griffey for some reason, but if people in the Maple world are going around getting seduced by monsters, maybe this isn't as weird as I think. After obtaining Sayram's necklace, we return to Chief Tatamo. He realizes that there's a picture contained in the necklace and tells us to bring it to the insignificant being in Sleepywood Dungeon who can tell us more. Insignificant being tells us that the picture on the necklace points to the forgotten shrine deep in the dungeon, and that we'll find the singing shield there. He also mentions that it will be locked and Junior Balrog will have the key, so we have to take out Junior Balrog to unlock the shrine. A very difficult boss for 2006. By the time 4th Job came out, not really that tough. Entering the portal here with the key, we find the singing shield and bring it back to Wiz the Librarian, who manages to find the book within the shield? I don't really know. Either way, he gives us the skill book and we learn our new skill, whichever of the three it may be. And that's all for common warrior skills. Next on the list is Paladin, and there's only one skill they have that requires a quest. It's technically two skills, but they're unlocked at the same time: Holy Charge and Divine Charge, the two holy elemental charges for blunt weapons and swords. We talk to Harmonia, who mogs us a bit about being a weak knight. I guess if you don't have Holy Charge, you're gonna be missing out on a lot of damage, so he's not wrong. Apparently, there's a way for us to receive this new holy power, though. By adding holy water found in the Cave of Life to a holy cup that Tang the Explorer recently discovered, and then sacrificing this cup of holy water to a statue in Orbis Tower, we can receive this holy power. If you had presented this idea to me in any other context, that giving a statue a cup of water would unlock holy powers, I would tell you to leave me alone. Talking to Tang, he asks us to bring him 10 shark teeth in exchange for the Holy Grail, which seems like a lopsided trade if you ask me. After doing so, we have the empty grail that we now need to fill with holy water found in Horntail's cave, and this is where things get complicated. This is the first 4th Job skill quest that requires us to enter Horntail's cave, and it definitely isn't the last. This was always a huge barrier for players to overcome. Even gaining access to Horntail in the first place required the transformation potion to sneak past the guards. The method by which this potion was acquired was pretty demanding, requiring a Manon kill and a few other materials to create one single transformation potion, which allowed entrance one time. If someone had the Certificate of the Dragon Squad, they could skip the PQ section of Horntail's cave and head directly to the iconic entrance map where the holy water was found. I'm not really entirely sure how this worked, but I know that the holy water is in the entrance of the cave, and you have to get past the guard to access it. The whole Cave of Life thing is going to show up again throughout our journey through 4th job skill quests. It was very demanding to even enter, requiring the transformation potion and multiple players, and the parts of the PQ that were actually required could easily be skipped if people weren't paying attention. Admittedly, the skills you gained access to through quests that required entrance to the Cave of Life were usually extremely powerful and always worthwhile, but that didn't make it any less annoying. After filling the cup with the holy water, we sacrifice it to the statue found on the 8th floor of Orbis Tower, and we gain access to both Holy and Divine Charge, 2 extremely important skills for paladins that introduces us to a few themes we'll be seeing plenty more times. Paladins also have a skill called Advanced Charge, a passive skill that improves upon 3rd job's charge blow, turning it into an incredibly powerful mobbing ability rather than a single-use skill that consumes the current charge, forcing the paladin to recast their elemental charge if they want to have it again. An extremely valuable upgrade. This skill doesn't have a very interesting story as far as unlocking it is concerned, though. It's a skill book drop from Zachem, one of a few different skills we'll see today that are only accessible through the skill books he drops. The thing is, most players weren't contributing to a Zachem run until level 135 at minimum, and that's a huge gap to have to cross for a new 4th job character. You better hope you have a nice guild who will carry you through Zachem for a chance at your skill book, especially one as important as Advanced Charge. Interestingly, Hero doesn't actually have any other 4th job skill quests beyond the ones we've already discussed. For whatever reason, it was decided that Brandish, an extremely powerful attacking skill, would be a default unlock for them, while other classes had to go through grueling, tedious quest lines to get access to some of their best skills. Interesting decision. This is what I'm talking about when I say I don't really understand the criteria for skills being locked behind quest lines. I mean, Brandish is an insanely powerful skill and you just get it for free. Advanced Combo Attack is the only other skill of theirs left to be unlocked, and much in the same way Advanced Charge is a skill book only available from Zachem, this skill is also only ever found in skill book form from the same boss. The final Dark Knight skills to be unlocked are the Beholder Duology, similar quest lines that are very simple. Aura of the Beholder requires us to talk to Harmonia, who tells us that our Beholder is a dark spirit, the spirit of someone wicked and strong. Yes, real actual lore for a 4th job skill, it's pretty cool. This spirit is of someone who was so wicked that eventually they had to be purified, though Harmonia doesn't go into much more detail beyond telling us that Beholder won't be a threat to us at any point. One of Beholder's powers that we've yet to gain access to is its healing ability, which is that, dark evil spirit, that's the ability I expect. Harmonia sends us off to talk to Mr. Buffon in Path of Time. This clown holds the knowledge we require to unlock the healing abilities of this dark spirit. Mr. Buffon is already expecting us, and he lets us know as much when we arrive. He once again reiterates that Beholder used to be really bad. This is, of course, indicated by his being blue, the color of evil. I don't really get what he meant by this, considering Beholder is purple, but I believe him anyway. Our goal is to acquire the magical array of the spirit, some kind of soul matrix array thing dropped by Thanatos, which would be a reasonably easy kill, of course. One of the things I always liked about these quests is how it forces you to do things you otherwise would never bother with. What purpose do Thanatos hold for warriors outside of this, you know? I can't think of much, at least. And we return the array to Mr. Buffon in exchange for Aura of the Beholder. He leaves us with the final thought that we've yet to unlock Beholder's full power, and that brings us to Hex of the Beholder. Talking to Harmonia, we're again informed of Beholder's potential power that we've yet to unlock, and this time we need to speak to Flo in Path of Time. Beholder's power is apparently being bound by a contract, so if we want to acquire this power, we have to find and alter the contract. This time, we have to kill gatekeepers to find it, and when we bring it back to Flo, he unlocks Hex of the Beholder for us. Both Aura and Hex of the Beholder are a part of the unique 4th job skills that are not upgraded with mastery books. Instead, they're upgraded by completing further quests. In this case, collecting hundreds of binding bridles and Viking sails and bringing them back to either Mr. Buffon or Flo, who will then expand the respective skills' capabilities further. And this is something that we will be seeing again. And if you can believe it, that finally brings us to the next job, archers. Unlike warriors who had 3 classes to cover, archers are a bit simpler, being comprised of only bowmaster and marksman. Both bowmasters and marksmen possess Dragon's Breath, but we've already talked about how this skill is acquired. It's a skillbook drop from Elnath PQ. Find a warrior who needs a party for Elnath PQ, and this book will drop at a very high rate. It's also the only skill archers had in common. A number of their quests were similar though, despite rewarding different skills, such as the quest for Hurricane and Piercing Arrow. We begin the relatively short journey to unlocking these skills by talking to Legor, who sends us on a quest to find a brown glove drop from Kintaris mobs. Any of them, it turns out. 4th job skill quest items like these were usually fairly rare drops. You weren't getting them very quickly in most cases. Some of them were tradable, others weren't, and I've never actually done this quest line myself, so I can't speak to the rarity of this one. I would assume it was probably a little bit of a grind, considering that the only step after this is turning it into Athena Pierce, who rewards us with Hurricane. Or, in the case of Marksman, Piercing Arrow. That's it. That's the whole quest line. The story behind this quest line is pretty neat though. Legor, the 4th job archer instructor, trained with these gloves relentlessly in his pursuit to become a master archer, despite being blind. Athena Pierce helped him train and gave him her gloves, which he used tirelessly until he lost them one day in the forest. There's a lot of meaning behind these little brown gloves and this 2-step quest line that could very easily have been missed. Next, we have another one of those quests that's started from acquiring an item drop. The ancient book found from Sharks begins the quest line that unlocks Concentrate for Bowmasters or Snipe for Marksmen. Piercing Arrow was a very simple unlock, but it's arguably the less powerful marksman skill when put up against Snipe. After finding the ancient book, we bring it to Wiz the librarian, who explains to us the concept of invisible ink for some reason. The paper seems strange. There's depression marks as if someone wrote, yet no words are here. Apparently this is the first time he's ever seen invisible ink, which I don't believe that. Not to mention that if the depressions in the paper are that obvious, it should be a relatively simple process to make out what it says. And I think this is kind of his idea as well. He has us acquire 50 ink bottles from squids, 10 pure water potions, and 30 magic rocks to create a sprayable ink that will reveal what's on the paper. The spray bottle ink concoction works flawlessly. I don't know why you weren't expecting it to, and Wiz tells us to bring the book to Athena Pierce. It's revealed to us that the book contains information about the bowman's ultimate skill. Like many of these books, there's real text to be read inside of these, but they're only partially filled in most cases. This book just contains pieces of information rather than anything resembling a full reference manual. Since we have the book, this means we're meant to be the new master of this important, powerful skill. That's how it works. Athena Pierce sends us off to Rini in Elnath to learn more. talking to Rin, she seems to not know much about this. She even states that if Athena Pierce didn't know anything about this ultimate skill, why would she? Which I think is nice. All the job instructors do a good job of talking each other up so much throughout these quest lines. It's a fun dynamic to watch. Rini gives us the responsibility of figuring out exactly what this ultimate bowman skill is, but she's distracted when she hears what she thinks is Shamos yapping away downstairs. We go down there to talk to him, and he calls us stupid for thinking we could learn the ultimate bowman skill, and he takes the book before deciding he doesn't know anything about it either. So I guess we're both stupid, huh? Apparently, Rini managed to actually discern something useful from Shamos that I definitely didn't pick up on, because she sends us to Sleepywood to find someone who's no longer alive who might know about the skill. I didn't really know this, but Sleepywood is a place that seems to be filled with dead people, canonically. We'll actually see this again throughout our 4th job skill quest journey. We talk to the Rememberer in Sleepywood, and of course, he has no idea about this new skill, because literally nobody knows what's going on with this, I guess. However, he does point us to Insignificant Being, who is very excited about our bringing him the book and discussing the ultimate bowman skill. Insignificant Being can teach us the skill, but we need to bring him 50 Dark Soul Rocks, a drop from a number of different monsters found throughout Sleepywood. After returning to him with the Dark Soul Rocks, we're allowed to enter into an instanced map to kill 300 of these fake Junior Balrogs. They respawn super slowly. This would have taken so long to do. Eventually, we return to him having completed the task, and we're rewarded with either Concentrate or Snipe. Both great skills that are very impactful, and this quest line really felt like a journey to me. We traveled to multiple continents, and any excuse to spend time in the cozy 3rd job instructor house is an opportunity I'll take. I really like this one a lot. Moving on to the one Bowmaster specific skill quest, we need to unlock Phoenix. We talk to Kumo in Leafree, who briefly explains to us the legend of the Phoenix and tells us that there's a Phoenix egg somewhere in El Nath. Apparently nobody believed him, and we're the first suckers to actually go into the lava to seek out a Phoenix egg. So be it. There's a hidden portal in Cave of Trial 3 that leads to this map, Phoenix Nest. We enter and grab one of the eggs. Yeah, this has just been here the whole time, I guess. We bring this egg back to Kumo, and he tells us that we can hatch it by bringing it to the top of the Sky Nest, a hidden portal in Sky Nest 1 specifically. We drop the egg at the highest point, and out pops Phoenix, ready to attack. Apparently there's some kind of rule that states the person who defeats Phoenix will gain its loyalty, so after defeating it, we have our new summon. Marksman's Frost Prey skill is unlocked in a very similar manner. Instead of talking to Kumo though, we talk to Yaku, and instead of finding the egg deep in Cave of Trial, it's found on a hidden map within Dangerous Cliff. The rest of the quest is the same, and the fight is the same, resulting in Frost Prey being unlocked. These two quests, as simple as they may be, have always been some of the more memorable in my opinion. They're what comes to mind when I think about 4th job skill quests. It was cool that you had to fight your summon in order to gain its loyalty. But that's all for archers. Only being 2 classes makes their recap pretty quick, but our next job is anything but simple. We now move on to magicians. As we know, magicians in Old MapleStory possess some of the most powerful skills, and those ultimates were not easy to come by. They comprised arguably the most complex and difficult quest lines, but it was worth it. Their power was just unmatched. Infinity is first up, and it's worth mentioning real quick, but there's no quest line here. It's just a skill book drop from Elnath PQ. The real story begins with Blizzard, Meteor Shower, and Genesis. Much like Phoenix and Frostprey, these are extremely similar quest lines with only minor distinctions. Unlike Phoenix and Frostprey, they're far more involved and complex. One of the major elements of 4th Job skill quests that I've kind of glossed over up until now is the immense amount of traveling that has to be done. This isn't a modern server where VIP teleport rocks are abundant and cheap. This is the real old MapleStory where the overwhelming majority of players were riding ships and walking to their destinations. Even something like the Concentrate/Snipe quest, where you had to figure out the ultimate bowman skill, was a solid multi-hour long quest between all the hunting and the travel time. Travel was no joke, and our patience with it will be tested with these magician ultimates. To start out our journey to acquire an Archmage ultimate, we need to talk to Robira, who lets us know that there's a book she left with Wiz the Librarian. A book that will teach us a powerful skill we're now worthy of learning, being 4th Job and everything. Wiz the Librarian fetches the book for us. Apparently whatever's contained within was too difficult for him to understand, but I'm a cool 4th Job Archmage. This is nothing to me. He gives us the book and tells us to bring it to Grindel the Really Old in Elinia. And this book is pretty interesting. It tells the story of a powerful magician who fell in love with dark magic in his unending pursuit for greater power. He was once revered, but after his exposure to dark magic became someone to instead be feared. The Elders, as they're called, decided to seal him away, and this story sounds very familiar. Yes, it seems like this is referring to the Black Mage, but Grindel informs us that this great genius magician whose power was sealed away is actually Shamos, someone we've already talked to before, who resides in the 3rd Job Instructor's basement. I honestly couldn't tell you if this story has anything to do with the lore of the world beyond this. Talking to Shamos, he rants a little bit about how much he hates Grindel for locking him away. Our next task is literally to go tell Grindel the Really Old that Shamos is the better magician, so it's just petty at this point. Even though it's probably true. Grindel apologizes, and we have a little bit more back and forth between these three. They all knew each other when they were younger, and none of them are particularly happy with the way things have turned out. Grindel is very sad to see Shamos sealed away, and Robira feels that he has threatened the Maple world and is worthy of death, but can't bring herself to actually kill him. So learning this, it makes perfect sense that our next move would be to help Shamos. This is definitely a matter in which we should be intervening and providing the guilty party with materials for an unknown purpose, such as an Eye of Fire in the case of Meteor Shower, or a Frozen Heart from Lycanthropes in the case of Blizzard. Yes, the Eye of Fire as in the same item used to summon Zakum. This means that Fire Poison Archmages need to either complete the entire Zakum pre-quest to craft them, or they can just buy them from another person. These were tradable items that were always in high demand and were never unreasonably expensive. And pretty much every single character in the game wanted to unlock Zakum, so it's not like they were forced to go very far out of their way with this. Bringing the respective items back to Shamos immediately unlocks the associated ultimate skill, finishing the quest line, and all he has to say is that this will allow great magic to continue to live on. So that covers the Archmage ultimates, but the Genesis quest line is pretty much identical with one major difference. The big item required for bishops is a life root. This is an item that only drops from specific monsters within the Horntail party quest. It's actually towards the end of the PQ, so it's pretty intensive to acquire this. It's not like Holy and Divine Charge, where someone can simply let you into Horntail's cave regardless of your Horntail pre-quest status. This one requires the actual pre-quest to be almost entirely completed. I am a big fan of the story behind The Magician Ultimates. I appreciate the conclusion being that powerful magic will live on, despite the dark history of Shamos, Rabira, and Grendel. When I originally conceived this video idea years ago, I was not expecting it to contain so many of these little vignettes that give so much meaning to these quest lines that have always been nothing more than hurdles to overcome in order to access new skills. I'm developing a newfound love for the lore of this game, as messy as it is. Next on our fourth job skill quest list is Bishop's Bahamut, the dragon summon who is an iconic piece of Bishop's kit. We head to Wyvern Canyon to talk to Raoul, the injured warrior who protects the holy dragon known as Nine Spirit, a part of the Horntail quest line and a piece of Leafree's lore that I'm not actually super familiar with. Raoul can sense the power of the dragon within us, which I believe since he's kind of a dragon guy. Dragon hearts found from wyverns are required to reconnect with the innate power we hold. Presumably, the precedent for this is Priest's baby dragon summon. These holy magicians possess some kind of power that ties them to dragons. I don't know much more than that. After we collect 20 dragon hearts, we return to Raoul and unlock the power of Bahamut. But its power is not entirely realized just yet. Bahamut is another one of those skills that doesn't have any mastery books. The skill's max level is increased in similar fashion to Beholder, where more dragon hearts equals more power, which equals an increase in max level. We repeat the quest a few times, collecting a lot of dragon hearts, and eventually we unlock the full power of Bahamut. Resurrection is the next skill to unlock, and this quest line begins when we acquire a black book, a relatively uncommon drop from zombies, grims, Mr. Anchors, and a couple other mobs. You've probably acquired one of these before if you've spent a lot of time playing Old MapleStory. We take this book to our fourth job instructor, Gritto. He points us to Karta, the Sea Witch, if we truly feel as though we're ready to learn this new power. She won't tell us about the information contained within the book. She's not really familiar with the material, but she does know how to read it. She knows that this type of book is only able to be opened using cold fire or similar contradictory oxymoronic elements. She also just so happens to know how to make cold fire, which is very convenient for us, so we gather the materials to allow her to do so. 5 charms of the undead, 50 firebomb flames, 100 ice pieces, the perfect recipe. It just requires that we go to Victoria Island, Deep El Nath, and Deep Ludibrium for a quest that takes place in Aqua Road. So it's just a light spot of travel. When we bring her the items, she's surprised that we actually seem to possess the wherewithal to proceed with acquiring this knowledge, gatekeeping us even further by not telling us where the altar to place the cold fire is located. It's somewhere on the ocean floor, according to her, so we only have about 139 million square miles to check. Thanks, Karta. The ocean floor in the Maple world is a lot smaller, thankfully, and the location we're headed is simply a hidden portal at the bottom of Dangerous Sea Gorge 2. Dropping the black book and the cold flame together into the giant cauldron reveals to us Karen's note. This book is a journal documenting visitors who show up to a river, light a match, and throw in a gold coin. This is some kind of ritual to bring souls back to the present time, and the Rememberer is specifically mentioned as one of these souls who was brought back. Karta tells us that Karen is the boatman of the River of Death. Like I assumed, he brings dead souls back to life. If we really wish to acquire this resurrection power, we need to talk to the Rememberer and learn about the secrets of death. The Rememberer tells us that if we want to acquire the power to cheat death, we need to experience death firsthand. So we head to Ludibrium to begin the death journey ritual. It's kind of harrowing when you think about it. I'm not entirely sure I would want to experience death and then continue living with the knowledge of that experience. In Forgotten Passage, there's a hidden portal leading to a map called the Forgotten Darkness. Hey everybody, this is future me re-recording this part because when writing this script, apparently completely forgot that Resurrection's quest, this whole room, was an entire whole-ass jump quest. So yeah, this sucked. I swear I've done this skill quest before. I don't know how I forgot about this part. This jump quest is kind of notorious because it required you to blindly navigate through it. So people, as you can see in the video, did things like dropped mesos to keep track of where they were and things of that nature. Anyway, back to old me. Traversing through this map and finding our way out grants us the enlightenment required to gain access to Resurrection. The skill is finally unlocked when we return to the Rememberer. He also tells us that it was totally possible we would have gone insane after experiencing death, which is what I would have expected to happen, but he didn't think to inform us about this beforehand. We were tenacious and strong-willed enough to retain our sanity though, so we now have access to one of Bishop's most class and meta-defining skills. The thing about Ice and Fire Demon is that their required items are dropped from the monsters who possess the corresponding element, and those are not the monsters that elemental mages were farming. They would instead receive the book for the other class. Another somewhat understated element of 4th job skill quests that I haven't focused on very much is the encouraged cooperation between classes. A major portion of this cooperative effort was instead diverted to capitalism, which is to say instead of people working together a lot of the time, they simply sold off the items or paid people to join them in like Horntail PQ. It could be really tough to find a group with which to enter. This is just one example of how 4th Job was designed to try and have people work together, which is one of the reasons why these quests stick out in my mind. They were enigmatic by design and comprised an admittedly very large part of my social interaction for a little while. I mean, you just couldn't get Rush or Power Stance without other people. YouTube was also still in its early days at this time, so this information was often only shared on forums. You couldn't really find a video guide compilation for every single quest very easily in 2008. Getting back on topic here, the Ice Demon skill quest begins by hunting for the Frozen Ice storybook from Blue Kentaurus's. Once acquired, we bring it to Gritto and the quest begins. In traditional 4th job instructor fashion, Gritto immediately just sends us off to go talk to Grindel without any information beyond, "Yep, there's the book you got there." What type of elemental magic could possibly be held within this ice blue book covered in shards of frozen water? It's a mystery. Talking to Grindel is when the book becomes unsealed, or whatever it is he does to it, and we can begin solving that mystery. This book tells the story of an ancient iceberg, the coldest ice found anywhere in the Maple world. Breaking and consuming pieces of the iceberg will grant the imbiber extreme levels of ice-based elemental power. Over the years, many magicians have tried to break it to acquire said power, but none have succeeded in doing so. Robira refers to Ice Demon as the best elemental magic, and given its ability to make just about any monster susceptible to fire, I would generally agree. She also seems to believe we have what it takes to actually learn this technique, which I would also probably agree with, considering we've now learned about 25 4th job skills throughout this journey. We're pretty strong. Robira sends us off to Jeff, the guy guarding the entrance to Deep Elnath's dungeon. He informs us that this unbreakable iceberg is actually imbued with an ancient spell preventing it from ever being destroyed. He does, however, suspect that Togain of Parion would be capable of crafting a hammer strong enough to do so, so we have our next destination. Togain agrees to make the hammer for us, not fully believing it will do the job, but we of course need to acquire the materials to give it a shot anyway. 2 orichalcum plates, 30 ice pieces, and 1 moon rock. This creates an orichalcum hammer, which is an item sprite that I don't believe is ever used anywhere else. At the very least, I've never seen it before, which is pretty cool that I'm still discovering things about this game after so many years. We head to the hidden ice valley and use the hammer on the stone to receive ancient ice powder. When this ice powder is consumed, Ice Demon is unlocked. This last part of the quest is extremely poorly documented, by the way. I really had to dig through the files to put this together. The storybook for the Fire Demon lore tells the tale of lava essence, the world's hottest liquid. Uncontrollable, even with immense levels of strength, it can melt even the strongest force. Naturally, many fire-based magicians wanted to acquire this power, but they simply weren't powerful enough to do so. If we can acquire and consume the lava, which seems very safe, we can unlock this power. Drinking lava feels significantly more dangerous to me than eating ice, but this is what we must do. The difference in quest objectives for Fire Poison Archmages involved talking to Adobus instead of Jeff, and instead of crafting a hammer to break the iceberg, Togain crafts us a glass bottle capable of holding the lava essence. Ifrit and Elkeens are next up, and they're interesting because they actually require that Ice or Fire Demon be unlocked first, and considering their synergistic nature, it's not really surprising. We talk to Alcaster in Elnath, the same guy responsible for the Book of the Ancient quest line, so we know his requests are going to be reasonable and quick. He asks us if we're bored of our current powers given how we've now mastered ice elemental magic. He suggests a Copernican revolution. Apparently this is an actual metaphor that people sometimes use. I've just literally never heard it until now. He's going to teach us some fire elemental magic and wants to begin his experiments immediately. Naturally, this means we have to gather ingredients. 50 firebomb flames, 10 Kinsaris' flames, and 10 small flaming feathers from harps. And he uses these ingredients and fails the experiment. Of course, it's not the concept of inverse magic or even the magic itself that's at fault here. It was a lack of sufficiently powerful ingredients. How could we be so stupid? Alcaster promises to keep hard at work figuring this out, and we're off to talk to Huckle in Orbis Tower. Huckle doesn't believe it's possible to acquire inverse magic, but he's willing to work with us on this. Next stop, Hughes the Fuse in the basement of Orbis Tower to discuss this concept further. His theory is that it's not possible to wield opposing magic, much like Huckle, but he does have an idea. He suggests a familiar, a summoned monster of the opposite element should be safe enough for a single magician to wield. There's a limit to how many elements a magician can wield at once, and this limit appears to be pretty much capped at 2. A summon would circumvent this, however. He wants us to collect some ingredients to be able to summon this inverse magic familiar. 10 orichalcum plates, 5 adamantium plates, 5 mithril plates, and a soul pouch. The plates are straightforward enough, but the soul pouch is going to require a lot of extra work. Huckle can make a soul pouch for us, but it's going to cost even more materials. 50 free spirits, 50 evil spirits, 30 binding bridles, and 30 summoning rocks. After a quick trip to Deep Ludibrium to gather these things, we bring them back to Huckle and get the last item we need for Hughes. He creates this item called Summoning Frame, a catalyst for summoning Ifrit or something along those lines. We need to bring it to Alcaster to figure out how to actually use it though. He requires a fire soul rock to complete the summon, and we need to talk to Flo in Ludibrium to acquire this. We're looking to hunt an elemental Thanatos to get fire soul rock, and Flo has the key to access their domain. Or did, at least, until it was lost when they were chased down by gatekeepers. Which means we need to go find it. We eventually find the key to the other world, and it's time to acquire the Fire Soul Rock. This part of the quest requires 2 level 100 plus magicians, and given the elemental typing of the monsters found inside, it's a pretty good idea to go in with 2 opposing elemental mages. This realm contains 2 elemental Thanatos and not much else, but taking out the ice weak of the 2 yields the Fire Soul Rock we've been looking for. With the summoning frame and Fire Soul Rock, Alcaster finally manages to create Ifrit, and we now have the inverse elemental magic at our disposal. A perfect synergy with Ice Demon turning monsters Fire Weak, and Fire Demon turning monsters Ice Weak. One of the coolest parts of Archmage that I never really paid attention to in the past. Alcaster leaves us with the line, "Hope you pave the way for more powerful magic in the future." For Elkeen's, which is Fire Poison's inverse elemental summon, the only real difference in the quest line is that the other elemental Thanatos in the PQ drops the Icy Soul Rock, much in the same way we acquired the Fire Soul Rock. The quest line to unlock these summons is a lot more involved than I first expected, especially considering how much relatively less powerful they were when put up against the Magician ultimates. These summons weren't nothing, of course, they were a valuable, iconic piece of an Archmage's kit, but I never realized just how involved the quest lines were. But with that, we finally reached the end of Magician 4th Job skill quests. This collection of skill quests might be the toughest out of all of them, given the intense requirements. I mean, there's just a huge amount of travel involved with these. And now we move on to the Thief quests. We're officially done with the 3 class jobs, and there aren't even that many more common skills we have to cover. The first Thief common skill is Taunt. This is another skill book acquired from Elnath PQ. Unfortunately, there's no real story behind it to explore. Ninja Ambush is the other common 4th job thief skill, and this one has a relatively short quest required to unlock it. We talk to Helen in Forest of the Priest, who suggests something interesting for us to do. I would hope so. We just grinded for like 300 hours to get here. But we're sent off to the Dark Lord without any further explanation. The Dark Lord sends us to a hidden map where there are 6 disciples disguised as the Dark Lord himself. Our goal is to defeat them and make them our disciples. These Dark Lord disciples exist on a map used only for this purpose, which is something I've always really loved in this game. Maps designed for one single purpose that are only seen by a handful of players. After defeating them, we return to the Dark Lord and gain access to Ninja Ambush. So I suppose that's the lore behind this skill. We've gained our own disciples who, at our command, will effectively function as a damage over time skill. I wonder if there's something similar for Band of Thieves. Let's get into an actually pretty important unlock for Night Lords. Ninja Storm. This is another skill quest that begins after finding a specific drop from Ghost Pirates or Dual Ghost Pirates, the Unknown Letter. With the letter in hand, we head to the far west side of Ludibrium's Cloud Terrace. There's a hidden portal here that will take us to a hidden balcony, where we can find the second job instructor, Unknown Thief. And his dialogue is weird. You know the maple leaves on the rooftop of Guild HQ? When it shines, you have to put the marbles there. Then you can put maple leaves into the marbles. Bring them to me. The cats are brown now. We really have no other choice, so it's time to go put the marbles on the roof and then do something with leaves to make marble leaves. Guild HQ is located in Orbis. If we head there and take the hidden portals, we can observe a maple leaf within a marble. Literally what the guy was saying. I thought he was crazy. Clicking on it allows us to acquire a maple marble. We go back to our second job instructor and hand him the marble, and he promises to teach us a new skill if we bring him a few materials. Boogie's Cursed Whirlwind, Black Tornado, and Griffy Wind. If we hand these over to Helen directly, we'll receive our new skill. Apparently, Unknown Thief and Helen don't get along very well. By the way, cool required materials: a whirlwind, tornado, and wind itself. 3 things that are easily grabbed and held in one's inventory. The Boogie's Cursed Whirlwind is found from Boogies in Zachem. This isn't the first time Night Lords are forced to fight Zachem to acquire a skill, but in this case, they don't have to actually kill it. They simply need to reach the point where Boogies are summoned and find the item as a drop. Luckily, it's a pretty common drop. Thanatos' Black Tornado is much harder to find, but at least it can be farmed relatively easily. And of course, Griffy's Wind was only found from Griffy, who is an area boss. Manon, the counterpart to Griffy, was farmed to death due to its involvement with Horntail, but Griffy was usually more accessible. And save for potential HP struggles or debuffing the player, Night Lords weren't usually struggling to kill bosses. Bringing these 3 very tangible items back to Helen, they ask if our second job instructor was rude to us in a last-ditch effort to get us on their side of the great second job versus fourth job war. Oh, and we unlock Ninja Storm. This is a good example of a mid-level 4th job skill quest, in my opinion. The skill reward is useful and practical, and the demands aren't insane, other than gaining access to Zachem, though I would imagine most established Night Lords were already easily capable of that. And yes, it's possible my opinion of this is being tainted by Helen's cool forehead tattoo thing. Maybe I just like 4th job more than 2nd job. You don't know? Then there's Triple Throw, of course. This skill is notoriously annoying to get, not because there was a massive quest line or because of Horntail PQ. The issue with acquiring this skill, at least for a time, was that it was a drop from Zachem and also completely untradeable. So the Night Lord would have to actually be present during the Zachem kill and get lucky enough to have it drop, much in the same way paladins, heroes, and bishops had a skill locked behind Zachem. With Night Lord, though, it was a little different. Triple Throw is such an incredibly important part of their kit. It's arguably where all of their power increase comes from, and they simply don't get access to it until they kill Zachem. Pair this with the class's insane popularity, and Triple Throw will likely forever live in history as a very annoying skill to acquire. Maybe the most annoying. Until Scissors of Karma were added and the skill book became a commodity, of course. Ask me how I feel about that. Shadowers did not suffer the same fate. Their primary skills were either unlocked immediately upon advancement or easily unlocked through quest lines, Assassinate being the latter, one of their most powerful skills. We talked to Eric, the 3rd job thief instructor, and were sent off to Sean in the Perion excavation site. Our mission is to find an item, no further specifics given. Sean tells us how dangerous it will be, but that has never stopped us before. Sean takes us inside the Hidden Relic excavation site, and we're faced with a number of those hard-hitting stone golems from Guild PQ. You know, the ones who hit a solid 30k plus damage. Because of Shadower's access to Mesoguard, these guys were usually hitting around 15k instead, but that was still way higher than a Shadower's HP pool would allow them to tank. Darksight is absolutely mandatory for this, and for Assassinate as a skill, considering it relied on Darksight to increase its damage. Hello, once again, it's me from the future. I'm fixing a mistake I made in the script. So this section to unlock Assassinate is basically a series of levels. You have to break the right box that teleports you up to the next level, and you have to avoid getting hit by the stone golems. It's pretty simple, really. And then when you reach the end, you get the relic and bring it back to Sean. Finishing this request and returning to Eric, we receive Assassinate, and Eric has a very fun line at the end of the dialogue where we express our disapproval of the mission. "What did you expect? You should have been a Dark Knight if you want to walk the straight and narrow path. You are a thief, so you must live in the shadows." Dark Knight's out here catching strays from the third job thief instructor. It's very funny to see. The other fourth job shadower skill that requires a quest line is Smokescreen. Lucida's drop an item called Formula for Black Cloud that starts this quest line. After finding one, we bring it to Hughes the Fuse, who will compile the formula together for us if we bring him the materials. One fan crafted by Kai in Omega Sector using 100 propellers and 1 steel plate. One battery from Harry Porter, also in Omega Sector, in exchange for a Papulatus certificate. A drop from Papulatus, of course. On top of these two things, we still need to collect some dual pirate propellers, gears, ink bottles, and a whopping 20 steel plates and 50 screws. After assembling this massive collection of materials, we return to Hughes the Fuse, and he turns them into a computer, I guess. Because this is the item we get that unlocks Smokescreen. But that's all for thieves. When you go back to jobs that only have 2 class paths, it suddenly feels like there's not a lot to say. Part of me wishes that Triple Throw was given a big quest line with a lot of lore instead of being locked behind Zachem with no real story behind it. Kind of a missed opportunity, if you ask me. Pirates were added to GMS in late 2008, well after the original design of 4th job skills and quest lines. They're not perfectly in line with other jobs in this regard, and they have no Elnath PQ skill book drop. They don't even have any skills in common that aren't also shared by every other job. Despite this, they were still given a few quest lines to unlock some of their powerful skills, and these quests were mildly interesting. Even though pirates shared no common skills, they did have a shared quest line that unlocked their most important respective skills, Super Transformation and Battleship. To unlock these skills, we talk to Chiron in the Nautilus, who tells us, much in the same way other job instructors have, that we're not really at our full potential just yet. She'll grant us access to even greater power if we can survive against her in battle for a few minutes. I think the most interesting part of this is the fact that this Inferno Chiron, as she's called, possesses 100 million HP and gives 6.7 million XP if killed. Alas, even with a full 4-minute timer, the pirate would have to deal over 400,000 DPS to actually kill her, which I just don't see happening very early into 4th job. After surviving, which was relatively easy given the fact that Chiron only hits around 3,000 damage, she teaches us Super Transformation, or Battleship, skills that are iconic and extremely important for pirates, but skills that are also kind of useless on their own. Demolition added a lot to Buccaneer's Super Transformation, as we all know, so that's what we need to unlock next. This is another quest started by Chiron, who tells us to go kill 150 red dragon turtles and collect 50 stone hearts. If we bring her the evidence that we killed them, she'll teach us demolition. Thing is, this isn't the only skill unlocked in this way. Snatch is another Super Transformation exclusive skill that Chiron can also teach us. In this case, we need to kill 150 blue dragon turtles and collect 50 sturdy leathers as proof. These two quests are obviously best undertaken at the same time, given the fact that they're essentially the same thing, as well as the distance required to travel from Nautilus Harbor to Leafree. That's not a short trip, unless we utilize magic seeds, of course. Anyway, we return to Chiron with the materials, and we unlock the 2 super transformation attacking skills. The only other Buccaneer skill we have to unlock is Time Leap. In the Nautilus, we talk to Rollene, who informs us of some temporal, time-space manipulation techniques he's been researching lately. Hence why he's lost so much weight, as he claims. I don't really understand the connection between those two thoughts. What region of the Maple world dilates time in a way conducive to such an ability? A location that might be controlled by some kind of clock-themed boss with unending themes of space-time alteration. Yeah, we have to kill Papulatus. Generally speaking, clearing Papulatus in early 4th job is trivial with a group and reasonably doable solo, so Papulatus is not really a major hurdle for Buccaneers like Zachem is for Night Lords. Time Leap is no triple throw, of course, though it is a ridiculously useful skill. After a quick Papulatus kill, we receive Papulatus's key and bring it back to Rollene. Thing is, this is not what he was anticipating. He has no idea what this key is used for, nor do we. He suggests we head back to the origin of Clock Tower to find the machine that this key is used on. Entering the portal to Papulatus with the key in our inventory allows us to access a version of the map where Papulatus is an NPC we can actually talk to. I don't know how many times Papulatus is seen speaking in this game, but he has a lot of dialogue here. He's confused how we got in here and why we have this key that only he's supposed to possess. Somehow there are 2 of these keys despite only one being meant to exist at a time. We find out that Papulatus has apparently been stuck in his clock tower for a very long time, hard at work on something. Much like Rollene, he found himself stuck and locked in to try and break past that wall. Through further discussion, Papulatus eventually discovers that we're from the future and we defeated him, which is how we acquired the key. At this point in time, he had just recently discovered the Crack of Time and is still researching its temporal capabilities. He's not the evil clock boss yet, I guess. He eventually decides to teleport us back to our time, as us staying here any longer risks damaging the time stream. We return to Rollene and tell him about everything we just learned. In exchange, he teaches us Time Leap. I'm not much of a MapleStory lorehead historically. I find it interesting, especially in a game like this where so much of the lore is obfuscated by poor translation work and hidden in random dialogue boxes in random quests that almost nobody went out of their way to do. As far as I'm concerned, this is the first and maybe only time Papulatus as an entity has been characterized in my mind as anything other than weird time ghost piloting a big clock who drops that useful stuff like mastery books. There have been a few standout quest lines like this that I really enjoyed, and I'm glad we got at least one more of these since we're now getting pretty close to the end of this journey. Corsair's equivalent tandem unlock skills are Battleship Cannon and Torpedo, the 2 skills that make Battleship actually literally the highest DPS skill in the game. God, I love this class. This is much like Buccaneer's Demolition and Snatch skill quests. Kill 150 of both gigantic and normal Spirit Vikings, retrieving 50 of each of their drops in the process. Return to Chiron, and we unlock both of the skills. Hypnotize is a little bit more interesting of a quest line. We talk to Shu Lynch in the Nautilus, and she reveals a huge amount of information to us. Rollene, the guy we spoke to for the Time Leap quest line, is actually just a monster poorly disguised as a human. Hence the mustache, I guess. I always thought it was very obvious that he was just a book ghost. I was cool with it. Anyway, she tells us that monsters in the Maple world once lived in peace with humans until some unknown inciting incident turned them all evil, which actually kind of explains the whole Sayram thing from the Warrior quest lines, potentially. Well, it turns out there's another monster living on the Nautilus named Deli who was kidnapped and is being held captive in Mu Lung, so it's up to us to save her. And this involves, if you can believe it, a series of jump quests. These are pretty annoying, being the kind where you primarily have to avoid monsters, but once we reach Delhi, the job still isn't completed. We're transported to a protection type PQ, much like El Nath PQ, where we have to protect Delhi from Mulung mobs for 6 minutes. And these monsters have some serious HP. After this, we finally rescue Delhi and we're given access to Hypnotize. I'm not entirely sure what the correlation is here between the story and the skill, but I'm happy to have participated. Now, the last skill we're going to cover on this extended journey is Airstrike, a mini ultimate for Corsairs. We talk to Bart in Nautilus Harbor to begin this quest line. Apparently, ever since we became a powerful Corsair, Lord Jonathan has been waiting to meet with us. Who's Lord Jonathan? That's a silly question. He's the king of the seagulls, and he's visiting the Nautilus right now at this very exact moment. When we visit Lord Jonathan, he asks us a math question for some reason. It was a really tough one too. 62 plus 10. Most people can't figure out the answer. After this, there's another quiz similar to the Dollhouse quest line. We have to find the correct Bart in this hidden chamber in the Nautilus. Unlike the Dollhouse quest line though, this one's much easier. The real Bart has on his mean eyebrows. After that gauntlet, we talk to Lord Jonathan once more and gain access to Airstrike. That was a weird quest line, which I think might be the perfect way to wrap up this journey. So, as you can see, 4th job skill quests are pretty interesting. I really enjoyed going through all of them and slowly putting together all the pieces to form this video. This is an idea I have had for over 3 years at this point, and I am very happy to finally have executed this concept. But I don't really have much more to say, so I guess I should go start working on another video.